about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I think one of the senators got busted for not declaring some of her stock profits or her husband's stock profits. And people have asked, where are we at now with people in Congress trading and getting insider information, which might not be the true technically criminal insider information, but if you are in Congress and you pass a bill or pass an act that is going to cause tech stocks or AI stocks or marijuana stocks to soar, there's a good chance that they might invest in those. Because I got to tell you, these Congress people make bucks. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi. So we're being told that one of the latest issues is Republican Senator Katie Britt, who is married to former NFL player Wesley Britt. Apparently, I think we're being told allegedly delayed disclosures of money they made as a couple, where 22 stock transactions from a retirement account belonging to her husband, apparently the report on those was overdue, totaling anywhere between $22,000 and $330,000. Apparently, Senate reporting guidelines only require a dollar range. The exact amounts of each transaction are unknown, but they say at least 16 of these transactions were more than half a year past a 45-day federal guideline, and the remaining 6 were several weeks past their due dates. One includes an April 14th purchase between $1,000 or $15,000 of Chase stock made in an account owned by her husband. Now, she serves on the Senate Banking Committee. Chase stock is up nearly 30% since the purchase. Okay. And I'm not accusing her, but I'm like, come on, of course these guys are going to get some tips and know when. I mean, the stock market is so manipulated. You could say, hey, guys, Trump could make a speech saying, I am working with Eli Lilly. We are going to be getting Mounjaro down in price. We're going to get everybody to, cheaper, shall we say, rates on their prescription. And then all of a sudden, Eli Lilly stock goes up. So obviously, government has some input and some ability to manipulate the stock market. The Senate Ethics Committee requires periodic transaction reports to be filed within 45 days when at least $1,000 of a stock or other security is purchased, sold, or exchanged. So currently, there's not a ban, but there's oversight. So Britt's office told AL.com that she had no knowledge of the stock holding and that the stock is no longer in her husband's account. Her office said upon learning of it, she requested the stock be unloaded from the account to avoid any appearance of a conflict of interest. Now, her husband does not own the stock anymore, but any proceeds from the selling of that stock is going to charity. Okay, I think that's appropriate. But, I know people are back and forth saying, look, a congressperson is an American. Let's get government out of it. If they want to own stock, they could own stock. My problem is there's such a huge conflict of interest because they're the ones making the rules. They're the ones voting on things. And with all the questionable decisions that many of these Republicans and Democrats have been making in the House, you start to wonder, do they have some skin in the game? Why would anybody support this? Why isn't it unanimous? Well, because there might be some other interest. And these Congress people, we know they succumb to interest because they succumb to interest groups, lobby groups, etc. So, where are we at with the law? So Chairman Steele had introduced legislation to ban congressional stock trading. It's called the it's called the Stop Insider Trading Act. The legislation prohibits members of Congress, their spouses, their dependent children from purchasing publicly traded stocks. The Stop Insider Trading Act also requires public notice 7 days before a lawmaker's spouse or dependent child may sell a stock. So if you know that something's coming around the bend, you have to notify them that you are going to sell the stock. So this allows anybody who needs to raise an eyebrow to raise an eyebrow. According to Chairman Steele, He says the American people deserve to know their member of Congress is not profiting off insider information. The Stop Insider Trading Act ensures that cannot happen. This legislation is critical to restoring the public's trust in the elected officials. If you want to trade stocks, go to Wall Street, not Capitol Hill. So, many people do have retirement accounts, and I think those are okay. The Stop Insider Trading account will ban members or spouses and dependent children from purchasing securities issued by a publicly traded company. They will require the members of Congress to file a notice at least 7 days, but no more than 14 days in advance for each intended sale. This is according to the government website. And then the House Ethics Committee has to issue a fee of $2,000 or 10% of the value of the covered investment, whatever is greater, and the net gain realized from the sale. So meaning if you're going to be selling stocks, you also get fined. According to Speaker Mike Johnson, no member of Congress should be allowed to profit from insider information, and the legislation represents an important step in our efforts to restore the people's faith in Congress. Steve Scalise is also working with it, Representative Chip Roy. These are Republicans, Mike Lauer. So I'm really on top of that. I think it's really gotten ridiculous, especially when you see the kind of money that Congress people made, such as Nancy Pelosi. When you look at their salary, they're like, well, wait a second, where are they making all their money? The Stock Act of 2012 prohibits members of Congress from using non-public information for their own financial benefit. But according to this report, they say many Americans have become concerned that the Stock Act is insufficient and stronger measures must be implemented. So the legislation was supposed to be reviewed this month. So we'll see. But as far as I'm concerned, people in Congress are supposed to represent us. They're not supposed to be making pretty pennies. And unfortunately, and I get, in order to, you wouldn't pay me enough. You couldn't pay me enough to want to have to work with other politicians. So they should make, a decent salary. But to be able to use their post to line their coffers and fill up their treasury chests at home, no, absolutely not. And so as far as I'm concerned, I think if you do serve the American people, you don't get to touch stocks. Absolutely not. Now, are their cousins, are their sisters and brothers not under scrutiny? That's probably a way some of that's how we're hearing some of these basketball players and other sports figures have been making money in sports, having a friend of a friend or a family member do their transactions. Well, we'll see. Big no for me. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go in.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Welcome back to the Dr. Daliah Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So are you a stress eater? Are you a live to eat versus eat to live? We've been trying to characterize what kind of eaters we are. Can you imagine this conversation in caveman days? They're like, you have a choice. I mean, you eat when there's food, right? Or you starve. What kind of business is this? Personalities. Apparently, there are some eating personalities that some of us might live as. I always thought I wasn't eat to live because I never had time to buy fancy food. I was like, man, I'm running from this job to this job. I need to do this. I need to grab. By the way, I was the skinniest. But once I was like, oh, I cannot wait for dinner. I am so excited for dinner. I am going to gorge in such delectables with dinner. Well, now you're living to eat. And so I think there's more personalities than that. So very interestingly, apparently there is research from St. George's University or City, St. George's in University of London, that said that there are eating profiles. And once we identify these eating profiles, they could help those people and help them achieve lasting results. Now, you're going to start to hear a lot of this diet stuff because I think public officials and researchers are finally coming to the conclusion that we all did, that Ozempic and Mounjaro work temporarily for weight loss. So for those of you who invested in Weight Watchers or other things or Peloton, you might get some of your money back soon because I think people are going, wait a second, I can't keep doing $1,000 shots. Even if Trump gets the price down to $275 by the end of this year, it's still too expensive. So with this research, the study, I guess, made this online quiz that was developed by the university, and it leads participants through 17 questions, asking about their behavioral habits, their emotional eating, their dieting, their exercising, and they came up with 4 profiles based on one's response: purple lavender, red chili, yellow saffron, and green sage. Now, according to Fox News, the quiz then would offer tailored advice for building a healthier long-term lifestyle, including how to stick to your personal goals, how to improve your dietary choices, and then to incorporate more movement into your life. So the UK study enrolled participants in a 12-week digital weight loss program, in addition to 7 weeks of tailored advice. And those who took the quiz and identified the right profile showed significant engagement in the 12-week program compared to those who were like, what? Leave me alone. And they were more likely to stick with it. The quiz takers recorded more meals, communicated with health coaches more frequently, and lost more weight on average. Now, if I heard that, I'm like, well, that's why they're losing weight. Whether it's the right profile or not, they're having somebody on their ass. That's how Weight Watchers used to do it and used to be so successful. I remember in the 80s, you would have responsibility, you would have accountability, so you would have to walk in, you'd have to weigh yourself in front of everybody, although they didn't see the number, and then if the person up front said they lost weight, everybody gave you a standing ovation, you got a toy or a present or whatever. You're like, wow, okay, well, this is pretty cool. So it engaged you, but you had to go weekly, you had to go to the weekly classes. So if you're recording your meals, if you're communicating with your health coaches, yeah, you're going to do more. So according to authors who concluded the study, they said phenotype tailored weekly advice was associated with substantially higher engagement in a real-world digital program, although short-term weight differences were not statistically significant. So I think they might be suggesting they didn't lose a lot of weight, but they lost some. The study was not randomized, but that followed participants for a short time based on their self-reported weight. So for people like me who lie about their weight, that could kind of skew the results. I lie about my weight all the time. So what are the 4 profiles? So red chili, that sounds hot and exciting. The red chili profile is characterized by high maladaptive and hedonic eating, low self-regulation, and high psychological avoidance. So what does that mean? Well, red chili members feel their eating is out of control. They may use food to cope with negative emotions. They may feel guilty about their eating habits, tend to ignore the problems that's making them want to eat. This group also tends to follow restrictive diets, but then overeats when it doesn't pan out. I think the majority of people are these red chilies, the ones who struggle with weight, because they're like, you know what? I'm going to starve myself. I'm going to punish myself for what I did. I'm going to starve. I'm going to lose a weight. But then they go back to their personality going, no. I want to eat. You know, there's a tomahawk special or a prime rib special. I'm going to eat. So these red chilies, I bet yo-yo a lot more. Then you have the yellow saffron group. That's based on high hedonic eating and reward reactivity and low maladaptive eating. These individuals find it really hard to resist overeating. They choose foods based on taste rather than health benefits and frequently crave foods high in calories, fat, and sugar. Oh, this could be the majority of people too. Yeah, okay, well, I guess everybody. Okay, y'all, a bunch of chilies and saffronis. Purple lavender represented low self-regulation, high psychological avoidance, as well as low maladaptive and hedonic eating. That group tends to set goals and pursue them temporarily, but may give up upon confronting an obstacle. Like, I can't make it to the fridge and wash off that apple. You know what? I'll just eat my M&Ms that are sitting right here on my desk. Purple lavenders may lose enthusiasm after starting to make changes and find it difficult to continue, as well as ignore problems and challenges. Then the final group are your green sage group. They're characterized as low maladaptive and hedonic eating, high self-regulation, and low psychological avoidance. So they often need clear guidance in making positive lifestyle changes, yet put off working towards goals when they lack motivation. They say people in the green sage may tend to not do the recommended amount of physical activity for their health or eat the recommended amount of vegetables for their diets, even if they often cook at home. So can I surmise these four groups? They all sound the same to me. It's basically, right, they're saying that you really want to eat, you have struggles sticking to a diet, you're not motivated, you might not be exercising, you prefer fatty foods. Okay, I'm sure there is some statistically significant difference. But what I do like about this is that they're trying to find your personality. I don't know if you've ever studied homeopathy. With homeopathy, you have I forget what they call it, but you are they give you a profile, a personality. And those individuals, I think like one might be Nox Vomica or something like that, but you potty. Let's say some of you might potty right after you eat. Some people might be prone to constipation. You're a different homeopathic character and personality. Very, very cool. And what I really, really liked about when I learned about homeopathy and these others is how it starts to individualize. This one size fits all stinks in medicine. I cannot stand to say, you know what? This worked on this person, this works on you. And I can't tell you how many times I've had patients who were Black or Latino, and they weren't doing as well as some of these other individuals who are Caucasian, because we have to identify that we're different. And if we have differences, we have to precisely fine tune what we're approaching. Like, for example, for blood pressure, you might see more lack of compliance and elasticity of vessels in somebody who's Black. So we like to use the calcium channel blockers. Yet I noticed, how we were taught, you start with beta blockers, slow down the heart. But I'm like, my patient's heart isn't slow or isn't fast. Why am I using that? And so we're slowly in terms of the dawn of time, but we have over the last few decades started to identify much better, which groups would benefit more from certain medications, certain pharmaceuticals, and hopefully understand, for example, like screening for colon cancer, prostate cancer. I've said for years that Black men can get much more aggressive cancer as it pertains to prostate and colon. Why are we screening them at age 50 when they may need to be screened sooner? Well, now the recommendations are lowering the screening and being more, shall we say, inclusive of and understanding that you got to embrace the race when you do medicine, so you understand that there's differences. So, okay, depend on your personality. It looks like the moral to that study is if you don't get your act together and you let your body control you, your body controls your obesity. You got to have control. Got to have self-control. Now, my knees, I just did a hike, the knees shot, but I need to still get my steps in. I need to get my activity in. And the more I move, the better my knees feel. I win. Same thing. Do you really need to reach for that Oreo cookie? I know it's there. I know you got the 2 chocolate sides and you got the cream in the middle. And you could sink your teeth into it or you could eat it. By the way, I eat my Oreos by opening it up. I don't necessarily lick the cream off, but I open it up so it feels like I'm eating 2 cookies. Because if I just eat the 1 cookie, I eat it faster. So I have to do these tricks on my body. Same thing with M&Ms. I won't eat a whole handful of M&Ms. You're not supposed to eat M&Ms, I know. But if I am going to, grab M&Ms, I'll eat them one at a time. So I try to savor it and let my body fill up and get full. So there's tricks of the trade, but the moral of the story is you've got to be in control. And you can control. You can control your body. You can control what you eat. You can control your calories. And you can control how much you move. All right? Although I would like to be called a red chili, because those do sound cool. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Welcome back to the Dr. Daliah Show, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So one thing I am just not going to understand is this fascination with Luigi Mangione. As you know, Luigi Mangione is the 27-year-old man who, at the age of 26, was accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in cold blood as Thompson was in New York for a conference. And apparently we're being told that there has been this plot to try and break Luigi Mangione out of prison. That doesn't shock me, but I'm shocked because I'm shocked by how people like this guy. It's almost like everywhere you go, and I know this has happened throughout time, but there is a huge following for somebody who is accused of murder and murdering a man with kids. And I don't get that. So who is the person that wanted to break Luigi Mangione out of his New York jail cell? Apparently a Minnesota man. Mark Anderson, 36 years old, was charged on Thursday with impersonating a federal agent as he allegedly tried to sneak Mangione out of the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Now, I understand Luigi Mangione has a lot of ladies who like him, but I guess this Mark Anderson thought it was on him to help break Luigi Mangione out. According to Daily Mail, source and ABC News, it was an ill-fated escape attempt that saw Anderson approach an intake area inside the jail, and he got close to the accused assassin, Luigi Mangione. Anderson allegedly lied to officials by claiming he had paperwork signed by a judge authorizing the release of Mangione. Oh, come on, man, he's been watching too many shows. The criminal complaint against Anderson does not name Mangione as the target of the alleged breakout attempt, but sources said the murder suspect was the focus of the plot. And so it fell apart when the Bureau of Prison Staff asked to see Anderson's credentials, i.e. they probably said, "Who the hell are you?" And then I guess he showed them the Minnesota driver's license, and then he threw numerous documents at the personnel. Anderson then allegedly warned staff that he had weapons in his bag. That's going to also kind of, right, do you in. And then a search of his belongings found a barbecue fork, and a tool resembling a pizza cutter. You know, he could have gotten farther if he did. These people are stupid, but the alleged escapee plot came just one day before Mangione is supposed to be back in court. A judge may decide if the 27-year-old could face the death penalty if convicted with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Luigi Mangione himself, the accused, was found to have some issues, especially with his manifesto and diary. So it's a high-profile case that I think is going to be ridiculously sensationalized. And we are seeing just droves and droves of individuals who are throwing themselves at this kid and wanting. And here's the thing: he looked really good. He looked like Jimmy Garoppolo in one of the pictures when he had a hat on and all that. But after as I was like, okay, wait, this guy looks like Jimmy Garoppolo. He is kind of good looking. But then once his hat was gone and you just saw him just kind of, no, he's not good looking at all. Not at all. So, but some people, they find him attractive. But I find that fascinating that you could find somebody attractive and they could do no wrong. And there have been studies that show that if you are good looking, you know, the what's it called, pretty privilege, that you can get juries more swayed, more free stuff, higher being good looking on is affects people's psyche so much. In fact, some of the most manipulative people on this world in this world, you know, we're graced and blessed with good looks. And I was never good looking, but even I tried to kind of, twist and turn, and I'd get some, extra free pizza and discounts just by going, hi. I mean, we all play it a little bit. But if Luigi Mangione gets off, or if he gets such a reduced sentence, this is one of the cases where it needs to be studied. Is there a likability quality? Is there, we'll look at O.J. Simpson. I mean, people loved O.J. Simpson. They loved him so much that even though there was all this evidence in the killings of his wife and Ron Goldman, Nicole Brown Simpson, even though there was all this evidence, well, if the gloves don't fit, acquit. It was such a PR kind of stunt, and it was such a manipulation of jurors, and OJ smiling and being suave and all that, and yeah, he got off. So it's going to be interesting to see who actually is on the jury and what happens with this. And it's also even more interesting that you see wrong done. And I understand Luigi Mangione is innocent until proven guilty, but you see stuff being done that's bad, that's inappropriate. And rather than humans having that moral compass saying that's right, that's wrong, we're seeing more and more people support the wrong. This is why we are moving to a civil war. What's happening in Minnesota keeps happening in Minnesota, it seems like, but what's happening in Minnesota can very easily happen throughout the world. In fact, Ed Norton had even called on there being, from what I understand, I heard, I want to reconfirm this, but I thought I saw an interview where he was basically suggesting a national response to ICE doing their work. And you kind of wonder, why aren't they also then protesting Canada, Mexico, and all these other countries for their deportation rules? Because they're even more stricter than America's. But people want the anarchy. They want to support killers. They want to support arsonists. They want to support criminals. You would think this is a slam dunk. ICE removing criminals out of this country. That should be bipartisan. And the reason why people are so frustrated with politics is they're looking at what's going on. And you're having people blow whistles, obstruct ICE agents, all because they want criminals here. They're fighting for the criminal. They're fighting for the bad guy. Why are they taking that side? It's one thing to take the side of an underdog. Psychologically, we get that. Right? You want to see the underdog win. You want to see them finally catch a win. But if we're removing predators, Tren de Aragua, if we're doing a trial for somebody who gunned a husband and father in cold blood on a New York street, why are you supporting him? Why are you supporting these individuals? And I think there are individuals where they're just like, you know what? They're unhappy with themselves. They're unhappy with life. So their cause isn't good. Their cause is disruption and chaos. But you would think, well, that would just be a couple people with severe mental illness. No. I mean, are all these individuals mentally ill? Are they talking themselves into it? Are they being radicalized? Look at how ISIS was able to grow, radicalizing individuals to be murderous. Now, some might have been, the family held hostage, and there's, look, we're going to kill your family if you don't do what we say. But there are individuals who really want to believe that evil should reign. And this is what we're seeing. That's what the whole Luigi Mangione case represents. Somebody was mad at United Healthcare, decides to kill the CEO. Within days, you saw other people on social media say, hey guys, these are the CEOs of other companies just saying, really? People are advocating murder? But that's who we're around. For people who say, the Holocaust will never happen again. Of course it will. Once you see that individuals have no problem biasing, discriminating, being racist, homophobic, being anti-you for what you believe or who you vote for, absolutely they'll turn you in, kill you. That's the nature of people. We can't be naive. And we can't support this sort of behavior where people are supporting the evil. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. Okay, this next segment is going to be PG-13, a little higher, so if your kids are in the car, definitely maybe kind of lower the volume on this one, or just listen to the podcast. Because I understand we're on the radio. Thank God we're on the radio, but you'd have to shut off the radio if you don't want your kids to hear this. So every year we get a study on sexual activity and how important it is for our health, whether it relates to prostate cancer, whether it relates to our oxytocin, hormones, metabolism, intimacy. Well, we have another article talking about how having frequent sex is good for you and how not having sex is not good for you. And so to reiterate some of the health benefits, and I'll talk to you if you're kind of in the sort of situation where you can't very easily have sex. We'll talk about that as well. But, according to health experts, the oxytocin, the dopamine, the dopamine, the endorphins are good. And these help you feel better, which is why a lot of us seek sex and a lot of us feel better after sex. But it's also very similar to what we get when we exercise. And maybe it's the exercise of sex, or maybe it's just the fact that you're having that buildup and your heart rate going up and all the other things that happen physiologically when you do have sex. But when we say you need to frequently exercise, you can't just sit there and not do things. The same thing goes for sex. If things are dormant, that's not good for them. That if you don't use it, you lose it is a concern. So it helps your anxiety. It helps, in terms of relationships, there's been study after study saying people who are in couples or married live longer than people who are single. The intimacy, having somebody who cares about you, having somebody watch and worry about you is life-saving. So that's very, very important. And sex can help build that relationship, obviously. The immune system is fascinating. There was a study with college students. I want to find that. There was a study with college students where those college students who were having sex more than a few times a week, they found their immune system was stronger. I want to find that study and share that with you. And then it's interesting. So when I was a teenager and I was having horrible cramps, my friends were telling me you need to have sex. And I'm like, no, God will get mad at me. I need to wait till I'm married. I can't be doing that it'll help with the cramps. You need to have sex. And my friends who were, very, very, I don't want to use the word slutty, but very amorous and involved and very sexually active, didn't seem to have as bad a cramps as I did. I picked up on that. I just figured I still needed God on my side, so I did not have sex in high school. But they do find that oftentimes that does help. Your pelvic floor and your strength in that. A lot of women struggle with urinary incontinence. Well, if you're using your pelvic muscles and your vaginal muscles during sex, that will tighten things up. We tell people to Kegel, where they contract their pelvic floor muscles to kind of strengthen things and build that muscle up so you don't lose your urine every time you laugh or cough or sneeze. Well, sex is, very, very nice, shall we say, opportunity to Kegel. So there's a lot of advantages. And then there's been studies looking at men and prostate cancer risk. How prostate cancer risk might go down the more they have sex or ejaculates to keep things moving down there. So, yeah, I know it's a study that it's a headline that a lot of news articles are going to use for clickbait, etc. But what nobody is talking about is what if you're in a relationship where you don't have a lot of sex? And so, and it's very, very common. There's a lot of relationships, I think from the Journal of Psychosocial Health, where there was a study looking at, it's very common that many individuals are having sex less than once a week. And I know people always kind of panic because they'll watch TV and it looks like they're having sex 3 times a day. And they're like, but we're not having that. And why not? Why does sex go down, when you're in longer relationships? Well, one is, there's, youth helps a little bit. The hormones help. Changes that happen in terms of you being able to get erections or you being able to have vaginal lubrication, those change. Also, relationships may change where, to them, you were a 10 and now you look like a 2. And so it's okay to be a 2. We all become 2s, but that sometimes doesn't really help. And then a lot of individuals, they just start having a loss in sex drive. Evolutionary wise, for women, sex drive falls because if a woman is, let's say, at an age where they are advanced maternal age and babies necessarily might not be as healthy as if they had babies 20 years prior, the body tries to protect the future human species by making those individuals less randy. However, we still do have sex drives. People think that the sex drive drops when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. No, not at all. You can still have sex drive. Absolutely, all the way through. And you should still have sex. Make sure you use condoms. Make sure you protect yourself. But I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I work a lot with the senior community, and I speak, with them. I, do talks, etc. Boy, so many of them are sexually active. And they love having sex. They love having the intimacy, and good for them. It's a great exercise. You burn calories. It's fun. I think it's fantastic. But there's a lot of individuals who want to be sexually active, and their partner doesn't want that. And so there are other things you could do together to be intimate, even if it doesn't necessarily mean the whole time is just between you two. And so talk to your partner about that. We don't want there to be a situation like this, what happened in this Las Vegas hotel, where the wife in Colorado was suing the hotel because her husband was going to sleep with a prostitute. Okay, we don't want anybody going to prostitutes. We don't want anybody cheating. And there are marriage counselors or your medical provider that can talk about options of way to still being intimate and still having love and being able to enjoy a very fruitful sexual part of your relationship without necessarily it involving every single piece to that. And so there's ways to be creative. But I do think sex overall, if you're using condoms, if you are not getting an STD, if you're not hurting yourselves and tearing or using foreign bodies that could hurt yourself, if you're doing the more traditional type, it is extremely beneficial. And I know with relationships things change, and what was that analogy? People said the first year, I forget what movie this was. They said for the first year, you put a penny in a jar for every time you have sex. And then they say after that first year of marriage, you pull a penny out after every time you've had sex. And they say the average couple will never get through all those pennies. And why after a year? Really just a year? So, I understand that there are a lot of, individuals out there that might not necessarily like sex. There's vaginismus and other conditions that make it uncomfortable. Some men are embarrassed about not being able to make erections, or they just can't have an erection with their spouse, but they could do so with porn. So there's a lot of there's a lot of lack of communication. The way to fix your sex life is to communicate. It's very easy to communicate. What if you don't want to have sex because your partner doesn't shower and they stink? Well, then what you do is have sex in the shower or get into the bubble bath. Say, I'm going to wash you. You don't have to say why, okay? And then after a while, they'll be like, okay, they only want to have sex with me when I shower. Maybe it's because they I go, this soap turns me on. It's better to communicate, so you don't have to lie. But there's ways around a sexless relationship. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.